Hi there. Today, I would like to talk about this idea that some poses go better with some parts of breathing and others go better with other ways of breathing, if that makes sense. Like some poses go better with your inhale and some poses go better with your exhale. And how do you know that? It's kind of intuitive, but it's also very interesting to play with switching that up sometimes too, and how it has an effect when, like, what would happen if you exhale as your arms go up over your head? Doesn't that feel interesting and weird and different? So that's what we're going to explore for just a few minutes today. And so basically, categories of poses, right? So you have your back bends, or which are spinal extension. You have your forward bends, and you can do these in all different positions, like tabletop or lying on your back or lying on your stomach. Well, I can't do a forward bend lying on your stomach, but you know what I'm saying, or standing. So you have forward bends, you have back bends, you have twists, and then you have lateral bends. And then there's some other stuff, like there's axial extension where your spine's just getting taller, and there's inversions, right? So we have some different ways that we move the spine. Some people say there's 6 ways of moving the spine, right? So extension is 1, flexion is 2, rotation is 3, rotation is 4, lateral bending is 5, other lateral bending is 6. And then you could say 7, because then you got the spine getting taller, which is called axial extension. So where do you breathe? Where does the breath go with all of those? Sometimes it seems very intuitive, but then I find it's really fascinating to play with the breath. It's not always so straightforward, right? So let's start with axial extension. So pose like moving mountain, right? The arms go up, the spine lengthens. That makes sense. What does it feel? What do you feel like doing there? It makes sense to breathe in, right? There's an inhale there. Now, lateral flexion, where you're going to the side, if I'm going up, that might be an inhale. But what if I was doing this? That might be more of an exhale, right? Because it's like a forward bend plus a little lateral flexion. So that's an interesting one. Twists makes sense to exhale, twist, right? Exhale and a twist. But there's also times to twist, and like this is a good one, to twist here and then inhale as I twist and exhale back, right? So inhale as I go deeper. So there's times to inhale on a twist as well as exhale, and that's interesting to work out. But typically twists are exhale. Typically lateral flexion is inhale. Typically axial extension is inhale. And then what about a pose like warrior 1? What do you think that is? Inhale, right? Because it's an extension. Forward bends, draw your belly in. That pushes the breath out, right? And inhale and you lengthen as you come back up. So I think it's fascinating to play around with where the breath naturally goes with the poses. This is part of breath-centric asana practice. Why practice asanas and care about your breath? You could just go to any class and they're like, inhale, arms up, exhale, arms down. There's plenty of that going on out there, kind of fast moving stuff. But when you're really moving slowly and mindfully and weaving your breath into the practice, now your practice is a practice about your physiology and your nervous system instead of just a practice about your muscles. Now, I'm being a little bit overly simplistic with that, because any exercise is going to be good physiologically, right? But a lot of times we think about it like muscly, like what am I doing to my muscles? What am I doing to my spine? We think about it anatomically. And I really love to think about yoga anatomically, but I even love it even more to think about yoga physiologically, because what is the breath doing to my autonomic nervous system that then is going to affect my mind, my mental health, my psychological state, the state of my immune system, the inflammation in my body, the neuroendocrine function of my body. I'm thinking about all that stuff, and that's what I think, where I think the real magic and power of yoga lies. That's the idea of subtle yoga. So if you're interested in learning more about this stuff, I go a lot deeper in the Subtle Yoga Resilience Society. You're welcome to jump in anytime. We've been doing it for about 7 months now, but you can just jump in whenever you like. If you want more information about it, it's on my website, subtleyoga.com. And I will see you next week. Thanks so much for being here. I hope you enjoy the tip. Namaste.